Secretary Phelan, so excited to sit down with you. Thank you so much. This is your first official interview since becoming Secretary of the Navy. What has been most surprising to you about this job? And, you know, I'm sure you've had to make some tough decisions in your first 8 months here as Secretary of the Navy. Tell me about how it's all gone for you.
Look, it's an honor and a privilege for me to serve as the Secretary of the Navy. I think, you know, the most surprising thing I think that I would say is the high quality of people we have and the desire for change. And that's one of the things I find with the military is they constantly want to improve. They constantly want to get better. I think the other thing I would say that's been the most surprising is, you know, it's a very dangerous world out there. And I don't think people realize how dangerous it is and how deployed we are every day and how people are constantly testing us. And those are things that, you know, that we luckily are very well positioned to handle.
So this year marked the Navy's 250th birthday. Just talk about that milestone from a personal perspective, what it means to the men and women who serve, and why it's so important to celebrate that.
You know, one of the things you realize is in order to be a superpower, you need to be a sea power. And celebrating 250 years of that is really important. And I think it shows how our force has evolved. But as much as things change and get different, they also stay the same. And it's more adapting. You realize that we're standing on the shoulders of really great warfighters, generals, service members. You know, I was just in California last week, spent time with a 103-year-old man who fought in 3 wars, a Navy pilot.
Wow.
And it was really pretty incredible to hear him talk about fighting in World War II, Korea, and then Vietnam. And I asked him, I said, what's been the difference? He said, technology. But, you know, that's what I think we're celebrating is our mores, our traditions, our histories. And I think it's very important, to be honest.
Amazing. Well, the president has made it clear that he is not playing games with drug cartels, with transnational organizations, criminal organizations. Right now, there is a naval operation that is down in the Caribbean. USS Gerald Ford Carrier Strike Group is down there, and they are aimed at taking out drug cartels in the region. From your seat as the Secretary of the Navy, talk to me about this mission, what it means, and what you ultimately hope to accomplish.
Yeah, so it's Operation Southern Spear. There's the Carrier Strike Group, which has 9 carrier air wings, so over 70 aircrafts on that. And then there are 11 ships there as well. And there's also the Marines. Drugs kill more Americans than we've ever lost in wars. So I think at the end of the day, the president has correctly identified this as an attack on the country, which it is. And I think if we can stop the scourge of drugs coming into the country, that's a really important thing.
What do you make of the people who criticize that tactic, who say that it's a little too aggressive to have, you know, this big group from the naval perspective, from the U.S. military down positioned in the Caribbean?
Yeah, I mean, look, they work in conjunction with the Coast Guard, and so it's a Coast Guard effort and Homeland Security to defend the homeland. So the military's job is to defend the homeland. So I view this as that's exactly what we're doing, and we're using our best assets to defend the homeland.
Well, China definitely doesn't like to see America down in this area. They really, it's no secret that they have spent years trying to make a footprint down in South America, in the Caribbean, in that entire region, and have a lot of economic influence down there as well. Do you take China's attempts to gain a foothold in our backyard as a threat to America, and what is it that we can do about that?
They are investing very heavily into a Navy. They are building a large number of ships. In fact, they have more ships than our U.S. Navy, and a lot of people talk about that, but I'm not sure that's the appropriate metric. We kind of look at tonnage and capability, so it's a little bit different. But I think China desires to be the world power, and they are a peer competitor with us. And I think as having planes like this that we're surrounded by, carriers like the Ford and our destroyers, our Arleigh Burke destroyers, those are ways of projecting American power and keeping the America safe and showing that freedom is really the better method, I think, than the Chinese system, as we call it.
Well, the President and the Secretary of War have really wanted to modernize our military, to build back up our military and modernize our military. Walk us through what's already in the fleet, what you guys have already underway, and what you expect to see in the future.
We're at what I call this hinge space between modernizing, and you have some people who say we should just go straight drones, everything's going to be drones. I'm not one of those people. I actually believe you need ships, you need human eyes, and I believe that human and machine is much stronger than machine alone or human alone. So what we are doing is we are updating our shipyards with very much better technology systems. We're using AI to help us with maintenance as well as inventory management. At the same time, we are updating our weaponry. As you mentioned, hypersonics. It's a very big aspect of what we are focused on. In addition, unmanned areas. And the Navy has been doing this for some time. I think the Navy is quite good in unmanned, and we're testing. And actually, believe it or not, the Marine Corps as well. The Marines have been using drones in a very forward way for a while now, and have really been upfront on that. So I think we are getting better and better. We are figuring out what works where. We've gotten much smarter, for example, in the Mediterranean, with the Houthis. You know, we've begun to shoot down drones now with much cheaper weapons to take them down. So, you know, warfare, you learn fast, and it's who adapts quickest. And that's what we're kind of integrating in today, is how to adapt faster and be quicker.
I mean, being here in the presence of these planes, this is American might, and you can feel the power just sitting in this room. So there's no doubt about that. In previous years, we've seen trouble with recruitment for the entirety of the military, and shipyard delays as well as an issue. So maybe you can tell us what's going on with all of that.
The president is very focused on shipbuilding. He has been on me about it for a long time, and continues to stay after me, which is great, because he's committed to it, and it's really important. We hollowed out our manufacturing base in this country, and it's really important that we learn how to make things. I've been saying in a couple speeches that we spent the last 10 years teaching people how to code. We're going to spend the next 10 years teaching them how to use their hands, because that's going to be the important skill. And in the One Big Beautiful Bill, they did give us a lot of investment capital, both for wages and for yards. And I'm hoping we're going to open up some new yards in addition to expanding existing yards. We think we're going to need, you know, north of 50,000 new workers in the shipbuilding industry to get going. And those will be well-paying jobs that will be very important to America and to our defense.
So what do you want the American people to know about the Navy's role in this moment right now?
Yeah, so I have two goals in the Navy. One is to leave it much better than how I found it, and prepared for whatever fight. And the second one, which I said, I was asked by a SEAL team I was with in San Diego, said, "Sir, what's your goal?" And I said, it's to have 0 caskets with an American flag on it. That really is what our goal should be. And basically that means we don't get in a fight. So if we have deterrence and we have the right equipment, we'll do that. I think what the American people should know is their Navy and Marine Corps is ready. It is the best fighting force in the world. We have the best equipment in the world. We need to continue to invest in it, to upkeep it, and make it better.
Well, peace through strength. We know someone who likes that idea as well. Secretary John Phelan, thank you so much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.